Greetings YouTube, this is a tabletop review between the Galco KingTuk and the WhiteHat Max Tuck. As you can see side by side there is a slight thickness difference. The KingTuk is two pieces of premium leather sewn together and the WhiteHat is just a raw piece of horsehide. The clips on these two are slightly different. The KingTuk has two screws and the Max Tuck has a single screw which allows for pivot. There's a pro and a con to that. The Kydex on the KingTuk is riveted, of course, and that's the only way it comes. The Max Tuck comes with Chicago screws, so you can change out your actual Kydex. So the versatility of it is great if you have multiple weapons. As you can see here, the Kydex on top of the KingTuk dwarfs the size of the actual holster. So that's a pro and a con in my opinion as well. But the width difference between the two holsters, as you can see, are different. Looking at the back side of the two, you can see the Chicago screws on the Max Tuck and the Galco. You can see the rivets. They're plastic rivets. And you can see the width difference and the height difference. To me, the KingTuk is a little bit more comfortable because it's smaller. Some people will argue that the wider the holster, the more it distributes the weight. But I'll show you some issues that I have with the Max Tuck because of that. And to me, the Max Tuck looks like the state of Texas, which is where WhiteHat is located. We're going to do a quick firearm safety check here. And you can see there's no magazine in the firearm, nothing in the chamber. I just want to show you a little bit of the retention on the two. The KingTuk has a tighter retention due to that. I think the two pieces of leather that incorporates the actual holster are thicker, so it doesn't have much to move. It's a little bit more rigid. The Max Tuck is a single piece of horsehide. Until you're wearing it, the retention, it has a positive retention. I didn't like the combat cut on the Max Tuck. As you can see, my index finger would hit the top of the holster. So I think it would have to be cut a little bit smaller at the top. That way I wouldn't have interference there. As you can see on the KingTuk, the combat cut was fine. You get a full grip, no interference from the actual holster itself. Again, the retention is slightly tighter on the KingTuk, and that's one reason why I preferred the Galco. And that's the only problem I see with the Max Tuck was the combat cut should have been cut just a slight different, a little bit lower, and continued across. That way you wouldn't have interference from your hands. By any means, my hands aren't that big, but still my index finger did hit when you grasp the weapon. Also on the Max Tuck, I did like the Kydex. It covered the entire trigger guard. As you can see here on the KingTuk, it does not. Just for safety, I mean, again, if the trigger is not being touched, it does cover the trigger when the weapon is loaded, but I prefer to have my trigger guard completely covered for safety reasons. The width of the Kydex is definitely larger on the KingTuk, which I did not like, honestly, because I'll show you in a few why I didn't. Also, as you can see on this combat cut that they had on the Max Tuck, if it was cut a little bit different, these grooves right here are made from my slide lock on my firearm here. My slide, just the lock itself, drags across the horsehide, and over time I think it'll wear out and just become an issue. On the Galco, no issues whatsoever because of that combat cut. It doesn't interfere with the slide lock whatsoever. The only thing it did do is leave a little indentation on the top layer, the Napa leather as they call it, on the holster here, as you can see. If they would have made their combat cut just a little bit longer, meaning coming down, I think that problem would have been fixed as well. The overall width of the Kydex, the Kydex and the actual KingTuk is smaller than the Kydex on the Max Tuck in width of the Max Tuck itself. They both are great little holsters though. I'm going to show you here how easy it is to put on and the retention of the actual weapon. Now the Max Tuck goes on fairly easy, which I didn't like the way the clips swivel, because that makes it a little bit more difficult to actually get the holster on, because the clips tend to want to swivel. Even with Loctite, you bump them, they still move. The screws don't back out, so with blue Loctite on it, but you still have that swivel with it. Again, there's a pro and a con to the swivel. As you move, your rig moves. The retention was positive, not as tight as I would have liked. As you can see, I got my belt pretty cranked, because you can see my little belly there. So the positive retention was a little bit looser than I like. Also, the way I wore it, on I guess the shape of my body, I had this little 2-finger groove here. I mean, you can almost stick 2 fingers in it, or an extra magazine. It was that big. On the KingTuk, it's a little bit smaller in width. It goes on just as easy. I do like the clips being stationary, because I could just pop them down and I didn't have to worry about the actual clips moving around on me. But it goes on a lot quicker, and you just slide it into your position that you prefer. The gun goes in fairly easy. Didn't have any problems with retention on it. It's a little bit snug, which I like. Not that I'm going to be running with it. Printing on both was great. Drawing from both are excellent. Here on this KingTuk, you can see I didn't have maybe a half a finger gap on that turn, and that's just due to the width of the extra material on the Max Tuck. So here on the KingTuk, it's smaller. But both holsters are great. You can't go wrong with either. I prefer the Galco KingTuk. Well, I hope you enjoyed this tabletop review. Please subscribe, and thank you.